I'm going to tell you why the conventional wisdom around finding your passion is wrong and explain what you can do to identify, develop, and live out your passions to create a more meaningful life. I imagine many of you are like me in this analysis paralysis phase, not knowing what they want to do with their life or even what baby steps to even take next to hopefully figure it out one day. You may be mindlessly scrolling through social media, watching YouTube videos, hoping to stumble upon something that sparks something in you. Well, guess what? I know that you already have a passion. I'm gonna explain to you how you can rediscover your passion if you've forgotten or lost touch with it as you've become more overly analytical or anxious. And we'll talk about how to navigate your passions as your interests inevitably change over time. So here's what we're gonna cover today. First, we're gonna debunk some myths and conventional wisdom that's got you thinking about passions wrong your whole life. Second, we're gonna cover the effects of this outdated thinking. Third, we're gonna discuss actions and what you can do to identify your passions. And lastly, we'll do a recap and a little surprise. I need some moisturizer. Shout out Cetaphil, not sponsored. All right, let's get started, shall we? First, let's explain why conventional wisdom has had us thinking about passions wrong all along by roasting our brother Mark Twain. I believe he said something on the lines of, find something you love and you'll never have to work a day in your life. What I don't like about this is finding your passion insinuates that it already exists, fully developed, and is just waiting to be discovered. I used to believe in this way of thinking and it sent me down this spiral of, oh, I just have to keep looking. So I'd consume media, try things half-assed, and I'd quit because I wouldn't feel that, you know, because I thought if it were my passion, I'd just love it and I wouldn't have these thoughts or doubts. I'm thinking if I was passionate, I'd love the work I'm doing and I would produce good work. Wrong. Passion is not the cause of good work, but the effect. You don't wait until you find something you love doing. You learn to do something well in the process of developing competency and agency, then causing you to become passionate about it. Mark Manson, author of Subtle Art of Not Giving a F***. It's similar to the idea that motivation is not the cause of action, but the effect. If motivation were a prerequisite to action, you'd be waiting a long time to find that motivation, to go to the gym, to start that business, to post that first video, whatever. It's the same for your passions. You become passionate as a result of consistently, repeatedly doing something and developing a skill set. And your passion can manifest into a job, hobby, or sport, but passions are not jobs, hobbies, sports, whatever. Passion is a feeling you get, and there are many things that can evoke that feeling. So passions are malleable and can take shape in different ways. So to put simply, passions are developed, not found. I feel like the natural progression from interest to passion is, for instance, you pick up a sport, a hobby, an instrument, and it sparks your interest and curiosity. At that point, it is interesting to you, but as you spend more time cultivating it, it sort of becomes promoted to an interest, and even with more time, success, and as the impact of it on your life or others becomes evident, it can become a passion. One last quote that sums this up. Success fuels passion more than passion fuels success. Before talking about proactive steps on how to develop your passion, I want to talk a little bit about the effects of thinking in this outdated way of, I need to find my passion. Analysis paralysis, essentially being indecisive, is a huge consequence of this way of thinking. I feel indecisive about a lot of things in my life, but one major one is career and vocation. Because God forbid you pick the wrong career and now you're stuck in something you don't like. If you're anything like me, this analysis paralysis might take form in many different ways, like drilling family and friends for their opinions, watching lots of videos on YouTube about different careers, pros and cons of this, day in a life of that, 20 things I wish I'd known before I got into XYZ. The funny thing is that I literally tricked myself into thinking this research was productive, as if the more information I consumed, I was formulating my opinions and getting that much closer to cracking the code on what my purpose is and what's gonna make me happy. None of that was true. It was just an excuse for me to not take action and sit back and passively consume information. The thing is, I don't wanna hate on YouTube videos or listening to podcasts or even reading books to help educate yourself and expose yourself to new ideas. There is absolutely a role for content consumption in your life. It can be a source of inspiration. You can learn from people who have more knowledge or experience. You just can't get in the trap of mistaking the entertainment for research as you listen to it passively while you're doing something else and you don't take the time to really reflect on it. You have to be intentional and diligent about it. Otherwise, when the video ends, you'll convince yourself you did something productive. But if you didn't take the time to reflect on what you'd watched and just move on to the next video, it's kind of a waste of time, unless you want to be entertained, which is totally fine. But just don't trick yourself into thinking you just did something productive. There were times I watched a video like why you should learn to code and here are some easy beginner projects to get started, and I leave the video kind of hyped like, yeah, this is it. This is my passion, or at least a contender for sure. But 9 out of 10 times, I'll ride that high, half complete a project, or just go back into research mode, watch new videos, which ultimately leads to more contemplation and inaction. Then the momentum fades and I'm on the quest to find my passion again, and the cycle continues. To touch on the reason why we have this indecision that plagues us, the main reason why you're so indecisive, as Healthy Gamer GG put it, you're scared of wasting time, money, and resources by making the wrong decision. You're essentially scared of being inefficient. Nobody wants to be the one to change their major 5 times and graduate late, or go to law school or med school and then halfway through realize it's not for them and have to change course. People think it's a waste of time, and yeah, it's not the most ideal and efficient way to get to where you want to be, but it may have been necessary for you to figure out what you wanted and what's important to you. No amount of rumination and analysis and research and opinions from others is going to give you that comfort and confidence in your decision. You have to make an educated guess and pick something, roll with it, knowing you made the best decision with the information you had at the time. And if you have to change course, you're adaptable and confident in your ability to handle any outcome and move forward. You don't need a 10-year plan, and I'd even argue you don't even need a 5-year plan. The chances are your job, your hobbies, your interests, they're all gonna change anyway. You're like a new person every 5 to 10 years, so you can't imagine everything else is gonna remain constant. If anything, it's your core values that follow you, but you could even argue that those are subject to change as you go through success and pain and gain more experience in life. Everybody wants a sense of security and certainty, but I feel like one of the biggest superpowers is freeing yourself from that. Saying to yourself, I'm gonna make the best decision I can right now with the information I have, and I'm gonna deal with the consequences and adjust as needed. And allegedly, the average American changes careers 3 to 7 times in their lifetime. That's careers, not jobs. So don't stress about getting it right the first time, because statistically it's gonna change. All you can do is keep trying new things, identify the things you like, invest more time into them, enjoy it, and then be prepared to start the cycle over again as your interests inevitably change. We all just want one thing, but you gotta let go of that and embrace not knowing. Now let's dive deeper into what you can do about it. Crusty. Everybody wants a fail-proof plan. They want that security blanket and comfort. However, one analogy I love about discovering and developing your passions is the architect versus archaeologist. So let's explain what that is in the context of a career. The architect designs everything before the first brick is laid. Before the first brick is laid, they have a detailed plan and have considered everything. Practically, someone in this mindset might be like, I'm gonna go to undergrad for this, I'm gonna go to grad school for that, I'm gonna get this job that's gonna propel me into this career. Don't get me wrong, if you have a plan and you're working through one right now, that's great, Godspeed, right on, brother. But I often see people essentially stuck in the mud, not doing anything because they don't have a well thought out, detailed plan. That's where the archaeologist idea comes in. So the archaeologist will find a nice patch of land and see that it has potential and think, I should start digging here. Side note, how do you know? Like there's probably bones under here. How would you know that? But anyway, they see the potential, and rather than questioning it and running the numbers and going to friends for advice, they just start digging. They don't give up prematurely, and they give it a good bout of time. And if it so comes up that it's time to look elsewhere, they pack up their shovel and knapsack and head to the next place without kicking themselves thinking, oh, what a waste of time. No, because you learned so much in the process that you wouldn't have learned if you had just sat on the sidelines wondering what your next move is gonna be. To sum it up, you don't create your life first and then live it. You create it by living it. Bars. Definitely plagiarized that from somewhere, but I wrote it down a while ago and I don't know where it came from. Finding your passion is the symptom or consequence of experimentation. So don't be like me, spending hours on my phone at night watching YouTube videos about should I learn to code or should I film gym videos? Like what? No. That camera died, but I'm back. Just do something, anything. But when you do decide to do something, don't half-ass it. Commit yourself to one full project. You can decide the parameters, what complete looks like, but don't go too crazy because you probably won't finish it. But the reason you need to complete one full project is because otherwise you won't be able to differentiate between the feeling of, this actually sucks versus, I think I like this, but I'm just hitting a natural bump in the road or sticky point. You'll be able to more accurately make that decision once you finish the project. For instance, I was so curious about how hard it would be to start making music, and it consumed me for like 2 years. I was listening to some EDM song with some simple bass, snare, hi-hat with some piano chords. And I was like, this can't be that hard. Spoiler, it's very hard. Either way, I wanted to figure it out regardless, so I committed myself to making one song in Logic Pro. One song end to end, and then I could decide if this is something I actually wanted to do and put more effort into. I ended up making 1 or 2 heinous songs, and I'm really glad I did it. I'll drop the SoundCloud link down below if you want to listen to some Bob Ross lo-fi pop stuff. I took this same approach for street interviews, podcast coding. Not all of it worked out, but it was part of the learning experience. When it comes to picking a career or a job, there's this TED Talk I watched where this woman was letting good offers go to waste because she didn't want to get potentially stuck in a job she didn't like. And her mom said, "You're not going to be stuck, you're stuck now." Bars. Pick a job that has potential like an archaeologist would, and I think once you're in that job, you gotta be a yes man, or a yes woman, or a yes person. We are all inclusive on this channel. You may or may not love the daily operations of your job, but say yes to new projects, new tasks, mentorship opportunities, anything that'll expose you to new things. You must challenge yourself to try as much as you are capable of, because either one, you're gonna find something that really clicks for you. Two, you're gonna realize you don't like anything about your job. Or three, you're gonna be somewhere in the middle and that information is gonna be invaluable in determining what your next steps are. Call me a work simp, but I'm grateful for my job, even though it makes me sad sometimes, because it's enabling me to realize key things about myself that I wouldn't have the luxury of knowing if I, one, didn't get a job, or two, be a yes man in that role. Upon reflecting on your job, you'll have more conviction in knowing what it is you want to do next. So if you're currently in a 9-to-5 and you're wanting to get a different 9-to-5 job, you'll be able to explain with conviction why you left. And it's a very desirable trait knowing what you want, because it earns you respect and trust as people people who are sure of themselves. But you have to work for that. Once you gain clarity from your work experience, you may decide to do a lateral move in a similar field with different people. Maybe you decide to make a career shift. Maybe pick up something on the side, like a side hustle, flipping furniture on Facebook Marketplace, starting a dog walking business, creating a YouTube channel, coding up your own website, creating personal projects, picking up photography, getting into blogging, event planning, anything. The only way you're gonna get closer to that answer is by living a life full of varied experiences. There is unfortunately no shortcut. There's some quote like you have to live on hard mode now to have an easy life later, as opposed to living an easy life now and suffering a harder life because of that. Personally, I'd rather work hard in my 20s living a life full of varied experiences to sort of shape my path forward, as opposed to being like 30 or 40 and like having no clue. But hey, knowing me, I'll probably be 40 and existentially upset. But in your 20s, for instance, you have your health and time, so might as well use it wisely. If you're bold enough to pursue the entrepreneurship route and never get a stable 9-to-5, Godspeed, I wish I had that. But I hate to say it, I feel like getting a 9-to-5 is like the most reasonable path to begin your journey of self-discovery. Call me brainwashed, perhaps. I will accept the allegation, I don't know. The other component that's important is to be a yes man, woman, person outside of work too. Within budget, health, your own means, go on that weekend road trip, go to that comedy show, the dance class, ask that special someone on a date, shoot your shot. Have that childlike excitement about trying new things, knowing that you are becoming closer to finding the things that excite you, that you'll turn into passions, and it'll get you into that addictive flow state that'll make life more worth living. Surround yourself with friends that you look up to, that are open-minded and curious and want to try new things and grow. If you are the coolest person in your friend group, that's problematic. Here are some tips on how to identify your passions. So you are passionate about something. What ideas, thoughts, activities, hobbies dominate your mind? What did you spend time doing as a kid? What do your family and friends think your innate strengths are? Your passion isn't as tangible and simple as you may think. People think of activities like passions like, oh, I love playing soccer, knitting, playing guitar. But what is it about those things that you love? With knitting, is it the act of creating something? Is it the idea that you could be like self-sufficient, create your own clothes? Is it time to just sort of space out and be with your thoughts? For soccer, is it the exercise, the competitiveness, the social component? The passion is the underlying why behind the thing that it manifests into. Identify those core feelings you love when you partake in certain activities and reflect on why that is. Like I said earlier, passions will manifest themselves into interests or activities that will inevitably change over time. For instance, I love connecting with people and helping them solve their problems by asking questions and helping them figure it out for themselves. In the past, that passion sort of manifested as being a sort of like career advisor for students to figure out like what is good. It also manifested into doing street interviews with strangers about deep questions. It also manifested into creating interactive visual dashboards to help clients answer questions with disparate data that they didn't have the tools or resources to do themselves. So what do you do about this? I'm claiming you know what you like and you're just choosing to ignore it. So reflect deeply on the things you love and identify ways to act that passion out. If you love being creative and letting your personality show through creating and working on something, write an in-depth review of your favorite movie and post it on Reddit. Film a vlog and edit it in a way to show off your personality. Do literally anything that has potential and see it through once. once. Don't quit prematurely so you can go through it end to end, and then afterwards you'll know if it's something you want to keep doing. It doesn't matter what you start with because you're going to learn along the way and as needed. So do yourself a favor and just get out there and try things. I want to leave you with some closing thoughts. Don't be insecure or lack confidence because you don't know what you want to do with your life. See it as an opportunity to live a rich and varied life. You don't need conviction to be confident. Confidence to me is being comfortable with not knowing and moving forth and taking risks either way, knowing you're capable of handling failure. If you buy into the idea that everyone is figuring out as they go, trying, failing, succeeding, pivoting until they land on something that has some stickiness, then I think you're well on your way. Accept and embrace the uncertainty. It's kind of exciting. If someone told me they wanted to be a lawyer since they were a kid and they became a lawyer and now they're just doing lawyer things indefinitely, sounds fun. Now, kudos to those who chose to do something that requires prep and planning. Great, couldn't be me. I do envy you sometimes. If you watched all the way to the end, you are extremely epic and most likely very handsome and or pretty, and I appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one. I didn't want to do the hand thing.